Okay, calling the joint info briefing, Committee on Ways and Means and Committee on Human Services to order. This afternoon, we'll hear from the Department of Human Services, who will present their biennium budget. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You can proceed.
Chair De La Cruz and Senator Sandana Ventura and committee members. Our director, Kathy Bates, is on Zoom. And
Okay.
so she'll
Give
lead
opening
off the
remarks.
discussion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Director
thank you.
Bates.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. You.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair De La Cruz, Vice Chairs, committee members, Kathy Betts, Director of Department of Human Services. First of all, Happy New Year. Thank you
Happy
for the
New Year.
opportunity today to present on our biennium highlights. I'd also like to thank you personally for allowing me the accommodation to present virtually. I very much appreciate it. Present in the room with you is Deputy Joseph Campos. We provided a detailed PowerPoint presentation to you earlier for more specific information. I promise you we will not be going through that entire presentation, and we'll be giving you a brief overview of our budget requests. I believe Leah Tomdinik, our legislative coordinator, is going to be sharing her screen with some truncated slides. So I'd ask for her to go ahead and do that if that's a good time right now.
Hi, Chair. I think I need to be handed over the screen.
Okay, hold on.
Thank you.
You are a co-host.
Oh, she's a host. And she said she's a host.
Malia.
Malia, they
I
said that
have it telling me host disabled participant screen sharing.
That means she's abled.
according to Senator De La Cruz, you should be able to do it. Malia?
I'm on two devices, so let me try to get off of one.
Apologies, Senator.
No. You know what then, Kathy, why don't you guys just go over the ads, and then if you want to highlight some of the reductions to see if
Sure.
to let us know of impact, then we can just stick to that.
Sure thing. I also have present on the call all of our division administrators, as well as Executive Director for Hawai'i Public Housing Authority, Hakeem Wansafi, who was going to present. He was going to present his budget first, and then we were going to jump into our HMS IDs, in which we're asking for some emergency appropriations and some trade-offs for positions. Would you prefer if I go ahead and go through all of mine, or we allow Hakeem a few moments to go over his?
No, yeah, I mean, I think his is going to be brief, so we can go ahead with that.
Okay, thank you. Hakeem.
Thank you. Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Wishing you all a safe and successful 2021. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Name is Hakeem Wansafi, Executive Director, Hawai'i Public Housing Authority. You do have our written testimony, so I'll keep this very short, summarize it in 2 sentences, and you have me available at any time for any question that you may have. 95% of our funding, as you know, for all the programs comes from federal funding, serving over 35,000 people in over 12,000 units and vouchers. Out of the 300 full-time public servants, we have only 1 position is A-funded, and we're pleased to inform you that during the pandemic, we were able to safely serve over 1,000 new families through our programs. The legislative ask in front of you, HMS 220, $10 million CIP, that is to be consistent with our contract with HUD, ACC contract, to keep the units safe, decent, and sanitary, and we get appropriation based on occupied units. The second item we have on page 73 is requesting a federal fund ceiling increase, and on page 74, HMS 222, requesting 5 unfunded position. This is because we get in additional funding from HUD to be able to serve more families. In fact, in the month of December, we were successful in serving 700 no families. The other is HMS 222, the rent supplement program that you are very familiar with. This is just to keep the current participants. We're asking for $500,000. HMS 229 with regards to the staffing for the statewide CIP funding. And finally, the request of $40 million of the rental housing revolving fund. That's 100% of it for the 250 elderly housing units that we are about to build. We're very grateful for the pre-development money that you gave us last year that allowed us to have successful 201H application zoning that was accepted by the city council, giving us a lot, over about $10 million in fees and exemptions. And that's our request. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Here, I'm just going to give a brief overview as to how we developed our budget. In order to create our budget, we rely on our basic values, which are our constitutional obligation to provide services to first needs of our state found in Article 9, Section 3, and as well as the Aloha Spirit Statute. We believe in treating each individual with dignity and respect. Our department's multiple programs are very complex, as you know. It includes multiple federal oversight agencies, federal regulations, which mandate a certain amount of state match or A match. We have block grant programs, which require a state maintenance of effort in order to draw down and utilize the federal funds. We have split funded positions, which if A funds are no longer available, the N funds cannot be utilized. And we're also very cognizant of the if there is a lack of compliance with the state maintenance of effort or match, as we set at higher risk of federal audit, sanctions, and potential corrective action or litigation. So those are all variables that we have to balance and be thoughtful and mindful of when we were developing our budget. We also looked at how we would be able to keep the state net intact for our most vulnerable residents and families throughout the biennium, and most importantly, throughout the public health crisis, which has highlighted so many detrimental impacts on the people that we serve. As you know, also, we have taken very aggressive actions over the last year to protect the health and safety of those that we serve, as well as our staff and folks that are still in offices. And we've worked to ensure that all essential services are still provided, albeit in a modified manner. You'll see throughout our budget that we are requesting preservation to our critical safety net. We're requesting that we continue our IT modernization efforts. Most importantly, that we are given the ability to continue leveraging federal funds, knowing that our general funds are limited. As you can see in our budget narrative, we started with Act 9. That reduced general funds that make up the state match for 319 positions with state fund salary totals of a little over $9 million, with a loss of $2 million of N funds for those positions. The salary reductions included 101 filled positions, of which 37 are within Social Services Division. That includes child welfare and adult protective services. So obviously very critical, essential needed functions, especially during this time. As a strategy. Sorry, Chair?
No, go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Page 14, I believe.
As a strategy to meet the general fund reductions and to meet the additional proposed budget reductions of 10%, we looked to programs where we could replace general fund expenditures with federal funds or special programs could tolerate without causing harm to the residents we serve.
Can you tell her to get closer to the mic? I can't hardly hear her.
Excuse me, Kathy, there's a request that you get closer to your mic.
You're gonna see a lot of face.
Or talk louder then.
Or talk louder.
Maybe increase your volume. Can you increase your volume? Maybe that's it.
It's on 100% right now.
There.
So can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
I'll talk very closely. So in order to meet the general fund reductions and the potential reductions of 10% of our state budget, we looked to our programs where we could replace general fund expenditures with federal funds or state funds. We examined what our programs could tolerate without causing harm to the residents that we serve. And that really required thoughtful and careful consideration of our various block grants, federal funds, funding mechanisms, and our oversight agencies. Being very mindful that we need to continue to meet our maintenance of effort in these programs in order to continue drawing down N funds. In our budget request, we are requesting trade-off and transfer of funds from other expenses to fund positions where Act 9 deleted general funds for positions, and so our budget reflects those trade-offs. Administration budget request for HMS 904, which is our administration, for salaries of 22 funded positions using special funds. This would come from the Hospital Sustainability Program and the Nursing Sustainability Program. So for our staff offices, of which we have 6, we're requesting to change the method of financing from A and N to B, sustainability funds, to fund those critical positions. Those are positions, for example, audit, quality control, and research. They perform internal audits to ensure our payments comply with federal regulations. So very important positions. As well as a language access position. That is, we only have one temporary position for the entire department to ensure LE residents can have equal access to our benefit services. So this is a federal requirement, and we are requesting for this 904 that we placed into the budget considerations. I'm going to turn it over very briefly, Chair and Senator San-Buenaventura, to our division administrators to very briefly go over their budget requests. And we will go through pretty quickly so that we can have time for questions and answers.
No, that's good. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Next slide. Hi, I'm Gina Moore-Peterson. I'm the MedQuest administrator. Very quickly, our Medicaid budget requests, as Director Betts has already outlined, it's a restoration of salaries for defunded positions using trade-offs, or at a minimum, to be able to retain FTEs for defunded positions. We have some housekeeping for changing, deleting some unestablished temporary positions. Most notably would be our last 2 bullets here, is that we have a budget request currently for $34.7 million, and for fiscal year 22 and $55 million in fiscal year 23. We also have several legislative concepts in order to help address those shortfalls. Next slide. In the past, one of the reasons that we are facing deficits is because we've had a tremendous increase in the number of people who are enrolled. We've had a 30% increase in our applications, which has translated into a 20% increase in our enrollments. We've been able to keep up with the processing of those applications through our online eligibility system, and by having our people be able to telework. We made those changes very, very, very quickly, but nonetheless, these do make a difference. So our budget-related issues, just as a reminder, in the past fiscal year, we were actually able to lapse money, and in large part that is because we had received and are continuing to receive enhanced federal match during the current fiscal year that we're in currently. We had projected a general fund surplus of $45 million. We have some updated projections for you, and then, as I noted before, we have some projections for deficits in the next biennium. Next slide. This is what that looks like. It includes also what the federal funds are and what the total funds are. These deficits have been included in the governor's budget. Our original projections, these original projections do not include the most recent Consolidated Appropriations Act that was signed December 27th, which restored Medicaid for the residents from the compact nations, nor did it include the extension of the public health emergency, which happened on Friday. As of yesterday, we've updated our projections, next slide, that take these things into consideration. And so you will see a tremendous difference, and we are currently working with Budget and Finance in the Governor's Office as to work through what these changes mean for the overall state's budget. For our current fiscal year, we've moved from a $45 million appropriation surplus to a $95.6 million. And that's in large part because of the extension of the public health emergency, which extended the enhanced federal match. Then the deficits, instead of being 34.7, it's 12.3. Instead of 55, it's 34. Next slide. So we have proposed a continuation of the nursing facility hospital, and then we're proposing a new Medicaid Sustainability. The nursing facility, we're not proposing any fundamental changes in how it operates. Essentially, we collect the assessment, we take a 12% to be able to sustain our program that you've heard before for example, administrative positions. We match those funds with the federal match, and through that process, we're able to provide a net increase in reimbursements to the nursing facilities. Next slide. So we are suggesting some fundamental changes or some changes to the hospital sustainability fund. Those two changes are, instead of 12%, it would be 10% that would go to our program. We're suggesting an increase in the overall fee, and that instead of all of those that it was 88% and now 90%, instead of the 90% only flowing towards increasing reimbursements to hospitals, 25 million would flow to the Medicaid program to be able to help sustain our programs and address some of those deficits that we are facing today. In the end, with those changes, we would still be able to maintain the net benefit to the hospitals of 125 million. We're also proposing a new sustainability program on health insurers. It would operate fundamentally the same way as far as leveraging the federal Medicaid match. We would structure the health insurer fee to be primarily on the Medicaid lives and not on the commercial lives, but it would be on both. And again, a net benefit of $15 million we are proposing, or how it's being structured today, as a way to help, again, address the deficits that we are projecting currently within the Medicaid program. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, go ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair De La Cruz, Vice Chair, committee members. Brian Donahoe with BESD. Next slide. So just so it's clear, our increases in applications are much the same as MedQuest. We've seen an increase of 50%, an increase in actual recipients of about 20%. Pursuant to that, or in alignment with that also, is what we've seen in the general assistance increase. And so what we're asking for to keep up with that population is 5.4 million for 22 and the same amount for 23. If we don't receive that, the benefit for those folks is going to go down from about $388 a month to $155 as of April. We're also asking for the restoration of salaries for the defunded positions, and that would be about 1.2 million in A funds with an N fund match. And if no opportunity for retaining salaries for defunded positions, we'd be looking to restore 53 positions. Next slide. Just as a side note, we were able to leverage TANF funds in an effort to reduce our budget. So from 903, we reduced 6.3 million. And the only challenge with that is that it puts us in a position where we have the potential to not make our maintenance of effort numbers. In addition to that, the program reduction of 6.9 million on preschool open doors, while we're able to leverage our position with the federal Child Care Connection to support families with the 4-year-old children getting child care, it's not the same as school readiness. So just to point out, there is a difference between preschool open doors and child care provision. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, chairs and committee members. For technology, I asked support for in 3 main areas, right? And again, the theme of this is technology supports the work, right? So I need your supports in our IT modernization projects and our technology projects that allow us to respond quickly and efficiently, and ultimately provide better service and critical supports needed by the most vulnerable community in Hawaii, right? Number two, right? We need this technology to enable us and help us prepare for the next giant wave of unemployed and underemployed people that are expected to come in March of 2021. And the last piece, and this is in particular to my organization, we need the money and the positions freed up so that we can recruit 16 IT positions that are currently being blocked. Because technology doesn't run itself, doesn't implement itself, and won't be maintained without the workforce that actually will support it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you for your passion about that.
Hey, good afternoon, chairs. This is Scott Morishige, the Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness. Next slide, please. We anticipate that homelessness will increase over the next several years, so a critical priority is to sustain funding for about $10.8 million in core homeless services that have historically been funded only year to year. That's the first 4 items listed there. We understand that Budget and Finance has included that $10.8 million in the budget as a recurring item, but in addition, we've also drafted a bill to seek appropriation for funding for those items if it's needed. In addition, for the 5th item listed, property removal and storage, we're appropriated $7 million for fiscal year 21. We're working with Department of Transportation to stretch out that funding over this fiscal year and next. However, we do anticipate having to come back in the supplemental year to request additional funding for that program. That program helps to address trash and debris on state lands, and that was approximately $13.8 million in the last calendar year. And that's just my quick summary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Maureen. Next slide. DVR.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, so just like everyone else, we're reiterating the need to serve our community and have these salaries that were defunded restored, those funds for the salaries restored. In the meantime, we are proposing to use some of the current expenses to cover our costs to serve our community needs. And basically, if we have the 3.984396 state match, then we bring in, our 13 million in federal funds, in addition to another 7 million or 8 million from the Social Security Administration. So we're just advocating, like everyone else, to make sure that we can continue to serve our community, and that state match minimum that we would need would be 3.9 million to bring in the 20 million. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so this next, sorry, if go back one slide, if there's any questions about the Randolph-Shepard revolving fund, I'd be happy to answer them for you, but it is a fund that is restricted in the context of the laws, and the impacts on those blind vendors not having their healthcare and Medicare or retirement benefits associated with this fund would be devastating, in addition to the loss of income they've experienced through the pandemic. So thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha everyone, this is Daisy Hartsfield. I'm
Aloha.
the administrator of the Social Services Division. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to note that if any of the committee members would like to meet offline to discuss additional information about this division, I'd be more than happy to set aside the time to do so. But for now, I just want to highlight and add some information to the department's package of written testimony. So first update the first issue I want to address has to do with this special fund, the Spouse and Child Abuse Special Fund. It was formerly known as the Spouse and Child Abuse Special Account. So if you hear the term SCASA, it's probably referring to this fund. The name was changed in 2019 when the state legislature passed the bill to allow 4E federal funding to be received into this special fund. On pages 49 and 51 of the department's written testimony, there's an explanation as to why the request to increase the ceiling is necessary. And I just want to remind the committee that the federal fiscal year does not coincide with the state fiscal year. The federal fiscal year runs from October 1st through September 30th, and that also impacts the accessibility to the federal reimbursement that the department or the division receives. And then I wanted to just mention in regards to the positions that have been defunded, we would like to have those positions restored or at the least retained. We'll be able to pay for these positions based on the trade-offs that we've included into our budgets. And these positions are necessary because we need to control our overtime costs, which is provided in Table 13. These positions will impact the amount of federal reimbursements that the division can receive, as well as prevent the possibility of avoiding any financial penalties for not meeting federal requirements. Again, these positions are included on tables 4 through 6, and the necessity for these positions are included on pages 41 through 51 of the written narrative. I just wanted to remind everyone that if these positions are abolished, it is more difficult to recreate these positions instead of retaining these positions and then being able to fund them when the money is available. And finally, the 2 positions provided in this visual is included because these are 2 critical positions that will provide the ability to maximize federal funding while meeting the program needs. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and I'll be available for questions after the department's presentation. And thank you for your time. I'll pass it on to the next presenter.
Thank you.
Chair and committee members, Bruce Shimoda, Director, Office of Youth Services. Thank you for spending your time with us. First bullet is defund 10 positions. We'd like to maintain those full-time positions for HYCF, HMS 503. Reduce 2% from program costs as a trade-off for 2 OIS defunded positions. And the JJIS data supports that, and that's why we're asking for that. Third bullet, reduce 3% from operational costs as a trade-off for 7 HYCF, HMS 503 defunded positions. Some of those positions are already filled, there's warm bodies in there. And those positions are core positions such as a cook, a farmhand, administrative person. We're also in the process of interviewing for those positions. So things are already moving. The first bullet, those 10 positions are right now vacant, and we're giving them up, but we like to maintain those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just like to mention that we are requesting restoration of the base budget for the Commission on the Status of Women to the tune of around $11,000, as well as the Commission on Fatherhood, which was by $4,000. Cara Jabola-Corliss, Executive Director from the Commission, is present on this call in order to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Yeah, I do.
You have a few?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Can I go backwards? So, Bruce Shimoda, OIS. Where in this reduction is the youth challenge elimination on the Big Island? I've been getting a lot of calls on that.
No, isn't that in public Department of Defense's budget?
It's not OIS?
No.
Yeah, youth challenge is not with us.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's with,
Oh, it's okay.
Public safety.
it's with higher, National
Department
Guard.
of Defense.
Okay, Department of Defense. Okay, thank you. Okay, I still have questions. Daisy Hartsfield, Social Services Division. Okay, the Family First Prevention Services Act, and you folks know that every since I've been chair in the House, I've been pushing you guys to finally get your act together on the Family First. So when do we get the Family First program start enacted? When do you expect it? That way we could get federal funds.
Yeah, we submitted the plan on, December 21st, 2020. It takes up to 90 days for the plan to be approved. There is a period of back and forth between ACF as well as the division. So we're hoping that, crossing our fingers, that sometime in late March, we'll know whether or not the plan submitted is approved.
Okay, so if we get any more federal CARES monies, because we lost some the first time around because we didn't get a Family First program going, yeah? That hopefully we'll be able to get some of those federal funds.
Correct, and just FYI, Senator, we're trying to push the federal government to move quickly in terms of trying to approve our plan, because with the recent passing of the relief bill, we can claim up to 100% through September 30th. So
we can relate back if you get it approved in March. You can relate back to the prior.
We're getting clarification on that, but it looks like we might be able to do that. Yes.
Oh, that would be terrific. That's millions of money. Okay.
Yes.
Moving forward. Scott Murashige, I have a question on the property removal and storage.
Okay.
You have 3.5 million, and I remember you folks used to always request like around 1 million. Why is it 3.5 times more this time around? It's 350%, yeah?
Thank you, Chair. The requests in prior years had been for 5 million. I think the most recent year, we were actually appropriated 7 million last session. So we are working with Department of Transportation to really be efficient and try to stretch the appropriation over 2 years. Part of the reason why it is the amount that it is that DOT is not just addressing state lands under their direct jurisdiction. We have a MOA with them to address all state properties, including Department of Hawai'i Homelands, DOE, DLNR, so on. And we actually saw the amount of trash and debris removed increase between 2019 and 2020 by about 2 million pounds additional trash and debris removed.
So what if they don't reclaim back the trash and the debris that you store? I mean, how long do you have to hold on to it before you trash it?
So legally, depending on the admin rules or statutes that relate to a specific agency, it's usually about 30 days, in some cases 45, depending what state property it is. And then the reclaim rate is actually very low. I think it's less than 10%. But we are required by some admin rules and statutes to hold it for at least 30 days.
Okay, so if we actually reduce that, I mean, have you folks thought of an administrative bill to at least make uniform the amount of storage so that we could reduce the amount of storage time and hopefully not expend so much?
A lot of the expense, I think, is because of the debris removal and having the types of debris and items that are encountered on state lands. In a lot of cases, it's not just regular rubbish. There's some items that requires special disposal, and we're also, some of these areas are in very precarious locations that are difficult to address with just normal labor. And so there needs flexibility to respond to some of these areas, like on the cliffs of Diamond Head or so on, that we require specialized contractors to be able to address that. So I appreciate the questions, Chair.
So it's not mostly storage, which is what I thought. I thought before when you described it, it was actually inventorying each piece of item and storing it, but it's not really that. It's really accessing these personal.
It's a combination. There are legal precedents that require us to have a storage program in place, but in reality, most of the items end up being in a category where we are able to dispose of it because either the person has given us permission to do so, or because it's hazardous and not they're items that we wouldn't typically be able to store. But we do have to have the program in place to have a mechanism for storage because of due process, because some of the legal cases that have come up, particularly in the Ninth Circuit.
Okay, thank you.
Can I continue?
Sorry.
Same item? Okay, Scott, thank you. Going back to the financing, I think DOT, we cut the $2 million of their budget last year. And that's why I think there were cases like people were condemning DOT of not clearing of the highways is because they don't have any money. So are we saying that the $7 million is going to be shared between you and DOT? Are they going to get some monies this year? Or do you know?
No, thank you. So the $7 million is appropriated to DHS and transferred to DOT Highways Division through an MOA with them.
Right.
What had happened is there's a period of time where, because of the budget situation, the $7 million was not immediately released to the department. So during that period of time, DOT had suspended cleanup, and they need this funding because otherwise the funding that they have available are either special funds or federal funds that are restricted specifically only to the highways properties.
Right.
So this funding allows them the flexibility to respond to other state properties.
Oh, okay. And then going back to what the chair has spoken about with regards to storage. Now, also, you know, I support you guys with what you do and get rid of the storages, and several reasons. One is I understand homeless people move. They either go back to the mainland or go somewhere else or another island. So they don't claim because there's, you know, they just let us hold their stuff, right? And then I understand some passes away. So how do you know if it's, you know, the length of time that you should hold it? So are we saying that you legally you can hold it for 30 days?
It's legally, if the item cannot be immediately disposed of, we have to store it in most cases for a minimum of 30 days.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, because you know, it's only added more work to you for you folks, and where you store it as well, because you're only going to add other pests that would, if it's in a warehouse, you're going to have rats and everything else. I understand a lot of the items are in pretty bad shape. So for me, my concern would be the health and safety of the workers that would have to go pick it up, clean it up, and then store, and then you're going to have somebody else go take inventory or whatever. But you know, it's not an easy job, and we thank you folks for what you do, because, I mean, I've seen the early part when DOT, as I chaired the Transportation Committee, and I visited one of their, what do you call, a sweep and stuff, and it's not nice and it's not healthy, and I can imagine what you folks all go through. So we thank your workers for doing that as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator
Just one more question. So thank you, Scott. My next question is with Judy Moore Peterson, MedQuest.
Hello, Chair.
Hello, Judy. So we talked about the sustainability funds, and
Yes.
basically, I think Director Betts said that there were 10 positions from the sustainability funds. This assumes that your new bills on the sustainability funds will be passed in order to fund Director Betts' request. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay. Okay. If there are no further questions, adjourn.
Chair, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Going back to the homeless, Scott, thank you for all of your work, the outreach. I'm just wondering, in terms of your budget, it's just all general funds. Do you get any kind of federal funds to do what you do? I know that you've got a good network, but you know, in terms of getting the homeless into shelters, what kind of funding do you have?
Thank you, Senator Moriwaki. So just to clarify for the committee, the program ID HMS 224 is actually within BESD, the DHS Homeless Programs Office, which is a separate office from my staff, although we work in close collaboration with them. Homeless Programs Office in DHS does receive some federal funding from HUD for the Emergency Solutions Grant and what they call Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, HIV, or HOPWA. But both of those funding streams are restricted to the neighbor islands. And the allocations for those items for OWAP are administered by the city and county of Honolulu through the community services. So we work in close collaboration with the city.
So the services are all through the counties and not through the state?
No, but I was here.
The federal funding is primarily administered through the city and county, but part of my role is that we regularly coordinate with the Department of the city and my counterpart there in our Office of Housing, make sure that we can align our efforts.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for all your service. Really appreciate it. Chair, I have a question of HPHA, Hakeem, as well.
Okay, is public housing? Why don't you state your question?
Okay, just to follow up, I know that you have some general funds you're asking for the rent supplement program, but with the 11 weeks coming up on us in a couple months, I'm really concerned about the unemployed who are going to be looking for housing if we don't get more federal relief or any other support. And I wondered what you're doing, coordinating that, maybe with the counties or Child and Family Service or whatever.
No, is there a line item specifically you're looking at though? Or table?
What I see is the rent supplement program for 100,000, but that doesn't sound like very much. So I'm just asking whether there's other supplements to that.
That one is just to maintain the current rent supplement participants. If there is any other funding, we're happy to assist any county or state at any time. But that specific line item is only to maintain the current participants.
Is there more Section 8 monies that come in, federal monies, ed monies, or is that it for helping any new applicants?
Anytime it becomes available, we do apply for it. There was $2 million that was available. We did apply for it. There were a few vouchers, mainstream vouchers. We applied for it and we got it. And there is another NOFA from HUD that came out in last week, and we are putting the application for it. So anytime there is an opportunity, we make sure. We also lease up our higher rates so we can go into shortfall and ask for some of that money as well.
So how much is that new request for?
The new request that's come in, that's to apply for up to 100 vouchers.
And that, in terms of dollar amount, what did that?
The average that we pay is about $1,150. We anticipate that to go up to about $1,200 per month per voucher.
And this is for only for
I hope we get that. Thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, meeting adjourned.